Just say a couple things about our game in Bristol. We see it as continuation of an effort to take baseball where it's not played live every day. You know, we're in Iowa, we've been in Alabama, we've been in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. Tennessee was a great choice for us. Great baseball culture here. You know, Tennessee Volunteers, the national champion in college baseball. Vanderbilt's always had a great program, and we think there's great alignment between the fan base of NASCAR and our fan base, so we're looking forward to a great event. Okay, questions?
I guess first off, when you first heard of the idea of playing at Bristol Motor Speedway, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Big crowd, big crowd. We think that you know, it's an opportunity to have a really large audience for a major league game, and we think the setting in, you know, really a legendary speedway going to be awesome for a baseball game.
Okay, have you ever been there before?
No, I've not been. I just the site visit. That was the first time.
Commissioner, you've done in your, what, 10 years as commissioner now?
Mm-hmm.
You've changed a lot of things. You've kind of pushed the envelope, I guess, if you will, in trying to change in baseball. I'm complimenting you, don't worry.
Thank you.
How important is it for you to find different avenues to present baseball? You mentioned Iowa, now you're in a motor speedway. Is that something you think is very important?
I do. I think it's a huge kind of pillar in terms of our growth strategy. You know, we believe we're a little different than some other sports, that our live product puts our best foot forward. And if you believe that, you got to take that live product to places where people may not have a chance to see it every day.
Commissioner, when you went to that site visit, could you kind of envision, you know, what it might look like to truly have a baseball stadium in the middle of a NASCAR track?
You know, let me say this about site visits for these special games. Every single time, our events people have produced an end product that was way better than anything I imagined when I first saw the site, and I'm absolutely confident that Bristol is going to be exactly the same in that regard. It'll be a great site.
And with the concert that's been announced with Tim McGraw, that'll help get people into the Speedway maybe a little bit earlier and give them a chance to enjoy and add to the specialness of this event?
Yeah, we think that tying baseball to other parts of our culture is really important. Obviously, Tim has great baseball roots, kind of a perfect fit for us in terms of doing something in addition to the game.
Why Bristol? I mean, you mentioned that the size and the location of Tennessee, but there's lots of places in Tennessee to play. What made this the perfect site?
I just think that the NASCAR overlay was really important to us. We liked the size of the facility in terms of attracting a really big crowd. I think those were two really important factors for us.
Commissioner, Steve Phelps was recently promoted to Commissioner of NASCAR. Can you just talk a bit about your relationship with him and what his role has been in facilitating the Speedway Classic at Bristol?
Yeah, look, NASCAR, Steve in particular, but NASCAR in general, could not have been more cooperative in terms of bringing the event to fruition. You know, you always, when you're borrowing someone else's facility, you always worry about how it's all going to work. I can't say enough good things about how cooperative they've been.
Commissioner, we are in downtown Nashville, so I have to ask you a question. I know you've been asked a million times, but I'm going to rephrase this. What about Nashville as a potential expansion team in the future? You've said you've wanted to add 2 by 2029 when you retire. East Coast, West Coast, we're in Central Time Zone. What is it about Nashville that could potentially be appealing?
Look, you know, obviously, I think it almost goes without saying at this point that Nashville's a candidate and a good candidate. I have learned that saying too much about any potential expansion candidate sets off a chain of phone calls from everybody else, so I'm just going to leave it there.
Appreciate it.
Is there a chance that another team could relocate here rather than expansion?
Yeah, I don't, you know, look, we have taken some pride in the idea that we don't take relocation lightly. Obviously, the A's are in the process of relocating to Las Vegas. It is my strong preference to make sure that everybody else stays put, and we pick cities as expansion sites as opposed to relocation alternatives.
Is there anything that Nashville can do to become more attractive?
Look, I think Nashville is doing just fine in terms of making the case that they should be a great candidate for expansion in the back there.
Commissioner, a slight tangent, but you mentioned MLB trying to kind of spread its wings and go into like other avenues and cultures. More recently, you all did a partnership with Ralph Lauren. So can you talk a little bit about how the MLB is kind of going deeper into the fashion route with Team Apparel and other companies as well?
Yeah, I think that it's important when you have an everyday sport like we are to reach out into other parts of our culture, food, music, fashion, in order to attract people to the game that may not be predisposed. I think fashion in particular is one where we can use relationships with companies like Ralph Lauren to market our players, really positive for them, that relationship, and I think positive for the sport over the long haul.
You mentioned relationships. You was talking earlier about Steve Phelps and NASCAR. What's the biggest thing you guys have learned working with them, and what can they learn from you think, the most?
Oh, look, I think we pay a lot of attention to what goes on in other sports. I think that for us, the relationship with NASCAR in terms of the fan base that they have developed, really loyal fan base, particularly in certain parts of the country, is something that's of great interest to us.
Baseball question, it might be related to the weather or the pitching, but Ron Blum tells me that as of last Wednesday, I think it was the batting average is just like .2 off of the low set in 68. Is it weather, pitching? You expect those bats to get hot at some point?
Well, I think given that in general, action in the game, balls in play is a good thing. I hope they do get hot. It is clear. We have really dominant pitching in the game. You can complain about it in the sense that you get low batting averages, but you have to recognize that our pitchers are just great athletes, and they are really dominant right now.
We have time for one more?
Yeah, one more.
Tariff situation. Any worry about how that might affect the supply of baseballs?
Look, our relationship with Rawlings is a strong one. They've always maintained large inventories in order to protect us. I think that the tariffs are a problem that's surmountable from our perspective with respect to baseball, certainly.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.